in spite of that judgment, in the face of that judgment, he was appointed to this post, I believe, somewhere in March or April of this year. There were 2 people who said no
to the appointment.
Right. 2 abstentions.
Right.
The others voted for the appointment.
I get it. We are talking about not of the position of the IGP, but the individual who holds the office of IGP.
Yeah. I represented His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith. The Easter Commission had come to a finding that there were lapses on the part of the Inspector General, the present Inspector General of Police.
I'm very pleased to be able to talk to Mr. Shammil Perera of President's Counsel in Sri Lanka. Shammil was involved as a lawyer, as part of the legal team in the recent fundamental rights applications. I think there were 6 cases before the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court issued an interim injunction on the holder of the position of the Inspector General of Police in Sri Lanka. Welcome, Shammil, to this program.
Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you for joining us at such short notice.
No problem. Yes.
Shammil, as I said in the intro, you've been one of the President's Counsel in the team,
yes,
representing a client or a number of clients. The whole team represented, I think, about 6 applications.
Yes, I think there were 7 or 8 in all.
Right. Before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So walk us through what happened, because many of us who are not involved in the process are talking about the case.
Yes.
But you were in court representing one of the applicants
yes,
before the Supreme Court,
yes,
as a result of which the Supreme Court issued an interim restraining order until the final determination of the cases.
Yes.
Floor is yours. Walk us
yes,
through what happened, perhaps a little bit of background, and then yes, we will know it all firsthand because you were there.
If I might start in this way, I represented His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, and there were about 7 or 8 other applicants, different cases. Our main argument was that the Inspector General of Police was not fit to hold that position. So, as there were 8 applications, 8 or 9, each of us took a different area to focus our attention on, because it covered a very wide spectrum. So I was in charge of, or rather I said, I will deal with the Easter issues, and especially the fact that the commission, the Easter Commission, had come to a finding that there were lapses on the part of the Inspector General, the present Inspector General of Police, and they recommended...
Sorry to interrupt you, Shammil.
Yes.
We are talking about not of the position of the IGP, but the individual who holds the office
Correct.
of IGP.
Yes.
Right.
So if I might say, the holder of the office of IGP presently, the commission came to finding that there was serious lapses on his part, and they recommended that the National Police Commission should investigate these matters further. So my brief, as far as the case was concerned, covered that aspect of his lapses on the Easter Sunday issues. If I might go into a little bit of detail there, because that's what we spelled out in the case. We led the evidence of the present incumbent to show that he received this warning and then he just passed it on to his subordinates. He didn't do anything further, and then, having received the warning that there will be a bomb attack shortly, he goes on leave. He doesn't indicate to the party, to the person who was to take over during his absence, doesn't indicate to him the gravity of the situation. And then when he went off on leave, the bomb attack took place, and then he rushed back. So as he was not there when the attack took place, the commission did not pin criminal responsibility on him because he was not there. And then as far as the other areas, there were 4 main areas. One was, there was a recent Supreme Court case where a 3-judge bench at the Supreme Court came to a finding that when he was, I believe he was then an officer in charge of a police station, there has been torture of a victim, and they have made a direct reference to him, to the incumbent IGP, and in spite of that, now that judgment was delivered in December last year, 2023. In spite of that judgment, in the face of that judgment, he was appointed to this post, I believe somewhere in March or April of this year. In the face of that judgment. That's the second aspect. The third matter was his very appointment, and that was the main issue on which the Supreme Court gave leave to proceed. His appointment as the IGP by the Constitutional Council was flawed, in the sense that there was no clear, definitive pronouncement by the Constitutional Council that by a majority of votes, he, the incumbent IGP, was nominated to that post. There was a massive grey area. 2 members had two members voted for him, 2 others abstained. So the question whether that abstention could be taken as a yes or a no was a question mark.
So how many members are there in the National Police?
I believe there are 8. I'm not too sure about that.
Subject to correction, there is 8, but of the 8 or whatever the number, 2 voted for the appointment, 3 abstained from voting.
2 abstained.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3 voted for and 2 abstained.
There were 2 people who said no.
To the appointment.
Right. 2 abstentions.
Right.
The others voted for the appointment.
I get it. Right.
The question was whether those 2 abstentions could be taken as a no. But in fact, evidence was led, or rather affidavit evidence was placed before the Supreme Court to show that what the 2 who abstained had indicated that they were abstaining because this crucial meeting was held on a particular day, and on the very next day the Supreme Court was to hear this petition against the acting IGP's appointment. We first challenged the acting IGP's appointment.
I get it.
It was only thereafter that we challenged the main appointment. So just the day before the acting appointment was to be taken up in the Supreme Court, this vote was hurriedly taken. Now, these 2 people who abstained on the basis, so they said, that they wanted time to see what the Supreme Court is going to come up with the very next day. But then what happened was, the speaker did not give a ruling at the meeting. He did not give a ruling, and the meeting was adjourned. Subsequently, he gives a ruling that he had used his casting vote. There were 4 and 4, and he used the casting vote, and he was appointed. So the next day, when the cases were taken up in the Supreme Court against the acting appointment, counsel said there is no purpose because the acting appointment has been made permanent. So then what happened was, we had to file papers again against the appointment. Previously it was the acting appointment. Now that process, the way that Constitutional Council meeting was conducted was borne out in the minutes of the meeting. And the court, in my opinion, justifiably came to a conclusion that there is something to be looked into. And that is why mainly it is on that basis that leave was granted, that there is something to be looked into. Then the further question that arose is, not only is that there is something to be looked into, but also all the parties asked for a interim order preventing his continuing to function as the IGP. And the court, on the basis of the material placed before it, came to the finding that there is definitely grounds for an interim order to be issued. Now I'm talking about the third aspect, that is the Constitutional Council. The fourth aspect, of which another council dealt with, was the incumbent IGP's stance as far as the Aragalaya was concerned. Because evidence had been led that when these people were attacked, he did nothing to stop. He was there at the site, but he did nothing to stop it. So those were the 4 areas that the court is going to look into. Now leave has been granted, so it has been fixed for argument on, I believe, the 11th of November, and then the court will look into all these 4 aspects. But for the purpose of granting leave, an interim order, the main aspect was the Constitutional Council's manner in which the Constitutional Council appointed him as the IGP.
Right, so that's lawyer to lawyer, that's very clear. Yeah. I think for the benefit of our listeners, both in Sri Lanka and overseas, who are not of a legal background,
yes.
I think we should explain what the court has granted is an interim restraining order. The word interim means a temporary order. Until when? Until the final determination or the looking into the matter, yes, by the Supreme Court, until, yes, the final judgment is given. Yes. You also mentioned leave to proceed, or, yes, words to that effect, yes, which means on the initial submissions or the representations made to the Supreme Court by the lawyers representing, such as Shammil Perera of President's Counsel, to the court has said, when we look at what you have said, on the basis of the written or the documentary documents filed and the oral submissions made, we think there is a case to be looked at. So therefore, exactly, please proceed to the next stage, which is, yeah, a full inquiry. So that's the leave to proceed.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it must be said, you have very clearly set out your client's case, the petitioner's case. This interview will not have the balance of having the lawyer or the lawyers for those who oppose the application.
Yes.
So I would invite them to contact this channel, Ideal Island, on the information on the website, if they wish to make representations for an interview similar to that I'm having with Mr. Shammil Perera of President's Counsel. So now let's get to the more nitty-gritty stuff of the legal interpretation, Shammil.
Yes.
So let me say the little I know from well, you're the one who's involved in the case, I'm the spectator talking on camera to you. As far as the viewers are concerned, myself included, the Supreme Court gave an order restraining until the case is fully heard and disposed of on a named individual from acting as the Inspector General of Police of Sri Lanka.
Correct.
In my understanding of the law, as soon as the Supreme Court makes an order, that order is effective from the very moment.
Exactly.
From the bench of the
Yes.
order of which is given. It does not need any rubber stamps elsewhere.
No.
Whether it's the Registrar's office or the Parliament or the Speaker's office or the President. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I understand it. The confusion, I think, and the discussions and the arguments and the counter-arguments in Parliament and elsewhere is all about the second part, which I believe, and I'm subject to correction here, is that the Supreme Court made a direction to the President to appoint an acting IGP. Let me say my view, and we can discuss that. In my understanding and my interpretation from the point of view of a lawyer practicing in another jurisdiction outside of Sri Lanka, that was superfluous, because the system is there. If somebody is unable to act in a particular capacity, yes, someone else can make an acting appointment, but the structure, the organizational structure is there, the minister is there, the deputies, the DIGs are there, and if that middle person is removed as an order of court, the structure can still work. If somebody goes on holiday, if somebody goes on extended medical leave, the system doesn't stop, it goes. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would tend to agree with what you're saying, Rohan, but at the same time, there was, I believe, submissions were made on the basis that the IGP's appointment was crucial, acting or otherwise, was crucial, especially in view of the forthcoming elections.
Where does it say? Why
no,
is my
it does
question?
not say so, but I believe it may have been owing to that they have given that direction, because even I believe the President in Parliament had mentioned the fact that there has to be an IGP, if I'm not mistaken, something to that effect. But as you quite rightly said, and as it's very obvious now, there is no need for there to be an IGP to conduct the elections, because they have already appointed a senior DIG to be in charge of elections. So the main aspect at the moment is the elections, so I believe the elections can go on.
So I think we are more or less on the same page, same wavelength.
Yes.
But I would invite a lawyer or lawyers acting or defending the applications made by Mr. Perera and the other lawyers to make representations or perhaps come on this program to tell us why that appointment of an acting IGP is mandatory for the proper functioning of the police department and the policing activities in this country.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further to add, Shammil, on this point?
From a personal point of view, I must say that I'm very happy that the judges have given this judgment, and it just shows the absolute independence of the judiciary. Of late, we have had a series of judgments which shows that the judiciary should not be tampered with by the executive or by the legislature. These are three different branches of the law: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Each must function independently, and various pronouncements, sadly, from using the Parliament as a shield, have tended to criticize the judiciary, which I believe is wrong, because the judiciary must be left free to deliver judgments in a free and very independent manner, because that is the cornerstone of liberty and justice in our country. And I would hate if I had to practice in a court or in a system of law that there is no independence. I have practiced now for so many years, and I am very happy that the judiciary has maintained that independence and shown that independence is pivotal for the safeguarding of the rights of individuals. And I'm very happy about that.
Very good. And the independence of the judiciary, long may it continue. And
Yes.
thank you very much, Shammil, for taking the time to discuss the matter that you are dealing with.
Yes.
And I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.